This is a relay project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, it's a big week in federal politics. We're grateful to have you here with us on this episode of Real Talk. This episode, by the way, presented by our friends at Rapid X Financial. More on that in just a second. We are going to be talking dollars and cents today, John. It's the day ahead of a big Liberal announcement, these nation-building projects, and so all eyes are going to be on the Mark Carney government's next round, the big announcements. These are the announcements that the province of Alberta had intended to be a big part of with the new oil pipeline. That was kind of the Grey Cup deadline that Alberta's Premier Danielle Smith and the Prime Minister had mused about, saying that they'd like to get to that point. They'd like to be able to have something to announce together, but it doesn't sound necessarily like a pipeline may be on that list. Brian Lilley, Conservative commentator, is going to join us from the Toronto Sun.
Good friend
he's
for a
going to
while.
pop
Haven't
in.
Seen him.
It has been a while, hasn't it, since we checked in with Brian, and obviously he comes at stories from a certain perspective, and we appreciate when guests, everybody kind of knows where they're coming from. I know that some people are going to write in and say, well, Brian Lilley's biased when he doesn't want to see Mark Carney succeed. He wants to see Pierre Poilievre as Prime Minister. We'll find out. I want to get his take on this. Lilley's got a story out today, as a matter of fact, in the Toronto Sun, talking about the own drama, the Liberals' own drama that they've got happening right now. Of course, everybody's been talking about Pierre Poilievre's drama ever since Chris D'Entremont, the Nova Scotia, the former Conservative MP, crossed the floor to the Liberals, shaving that goal that the Carney government has to 2 more MPs before they would have a majority government, be able to pass their budget, pass a confidence vote. Everybody in this audience knows exactly what that looks like. But Lilley's talking about the EV mandate in particular, how it may be or how it is alienating some high-profile Trudeau cabinet ministers who aren't playing as significant roles within the Carney government. So we'll get a take on that. That EV mandate's an interesting one. You remember this was supposed to kick in on January 1st, coming up here, like in 6 weeks or so, whatever it is. And ultimately by 2035 would have automakers selling exactly 100% of their vehicles in Canada as emissions free. So they wanted the EVs to be 100% production. It was going to start at 20%, 1 in 5 of EVs sold in Canada starting in January 1st. A lot of people, including industry people, like automakers, for example, have walked back some of their bold plans for how EVs would integrate into what they were selling, what they were manufacturing. The United States, under President Donald Trump, essentially dropped its EV mandate. And you have those within Liberal Caucus, in particular Jonathan Wilkinson, Stephen Guilbeault, suggesting that not only is that a mistake, they think it's a mistake to abandon the EV mandate, but the rumor in Ottawa is that it may be enough to push some pretty prominent MPs, longtime Liberal MPs, out, whether that would be to international appointments, to assignments outside or opportunities outside of government, or maybe even to cross the floor. Could Stephen Guilbeault cross the floor to the NDP and become the new front runner in the NDP's leadership race? I'm not saying that it will happen, but Lilley says it could happen. I want to get to his take on that. Plus, of course, what the Liberals continue to do as they inch closer to their majority, although there hasn't been movement in a bit. The most recent big story, wasn't it, was Matt Genereux, who was rumored to be considering crossing the floor to the Liberals, instead, of course, announcing his retirement as an MP to take effect this spring. We got a lot of ground to cover. We've got some follow-up, including a very meaningful email from a real talker named Carmen following our Remembrance Day episode. For folks that may have missed that, I know that a lot of you were out with your families. Many of you were out with perhaps fellow veterans, ran into a few of you. As a matter of fact, just yesterday at Campio Brewing, Johnny, ran into some real talkers who were there, and they were all wearing their what do you call them? These the medals, obviously, the service medals, I guess you would call them. Canadian veterans that were gathered there together. Obviously, a very meaningful day. Our special episode of the show was one, if you have a chance this week and you didn't check it out, make sure you do. Former CF-18 squadron leader, former fighter pilot, former member of Parliament, Laurie Hahn joined us, along with Randall Purvis, the founder of No Stone Left Alone, and then Don Levers, an author and World War II historian. So just a great conversation about Remembrance Day, kind of the evolution of Remembrance Day, defense spending in Canada, which is something that we'll get to with Brian coming up in about 20 minutes. And I thought, interesting conversation as well around the next generation of Canadian military personnel. So, you've got essentially what everybody knows to be true, a real recruitment issue with the Canadian Forces, and not just with like full-time active duty members, but even with reserves. Laurie's assessment of it as someone who's served for 30 years, as well as someone who's been involved in politics, in opposition, in government, understood that to be pretty clear, as well as a real challenge facing the Canadian Forces. So he had Laurie kind of presented to us what his pitch might be for young Canadians, for the young adults, or even the teens, the cadet-aged Canadians that would be considering a career in the Canadian Armed Forces. What's the pitch to them in 2025 as the meaning of service, or what comes with service? The involvement has changed. The geopolitics have changed. The way that war is waged has changed. Peacekeeping has changed. The significance of NATO, the importance of NATO has evolved, has changed. So a really great conversation. I want to get to Carmen's take on that. Plus, on a show like this, where there's a bit of a brief lull, in other words, we're the day ahead of some of these big announcements, we're all going to be taking a look, as well as our Real Talk inbox. We've got a great email from Chris on home ownership, and Franco wrote in with a question on immigration. Says that his family and friends, I don't know, Johnny, if they're picking fights around the family dinner table. Maybe it was a Thanksgiving spillover. Maybe Franco's trying to get ahead of this, ahead of the holidays. I'm not sure, but we did a little bit of fact checking on something, and I'm actually grateful for what Franco was talking about, because you never know how many of these conversations. He says he's got his family and friends talking about how immigrants, he says how immigrants are getting $80,000 a year for doing nothing in Canada. And Franco says, can we please talk about this on the show? I said, that sounds right up our alley. So we'll go there today. Plus, we'll take you to Jasper. It's Wednesday, so MyJasper Memories, presented by our friends at Tourism Jasper. As mentioned, RapidX Financial is the presenting sponsor for this episode of Real Talk. You can find them online at rapidxfinancial.com. 3 easy ways to buy and sell crypto across Canada, either online with Interac e-Transfer or at their trusted ATMs across Canada. Or, if this is more your style, I get some of you are like this, fully guided over the counter. You either want it to be on the phone or in person. RapidX Financial has you covered. That's if you're an individual just getting started with crypto, with Bitcoin. You're paying attention to where that's going. Or maybe you're a corporation growing its Bitcoin stash to preserve your assets. RapidX is here with real local people ready to help you at every single step. There's no bots. There's no hidden fees. It's genuine support from a Canadian team that truly cares about your financial journey. You can get crypto your way, anywhere, anytime with RapidX Financial. This is made in Alberta, and they can help you get started today when you visit rapidxfinancial.com. Also, a pretty huge story breaking out of the United States on Wednesday. And, of course, this is being reported around the world. We'll take a look here at the Independent's reporting out of Britain. The headline, Trump-Epstein email bombshells revealed from hours spent with a victim to political blackmail. This has been a story, I think, that a lot of people around the world have been waiting for more details on. And on Wednesday, basically today, this tranche of emails have been released by House Democrats that have a lot of people talking. Emails released from Jeffrey Epstein's estate that for the very first time mention Donald Trump. You can see here the reporting as well at cbsnews.com. I mean, all the major outlets are talking about it this morning. Obviously, the first emails in this form that are mentioning the president by name in contexts that are bound to raise serious questions. One email, for example, from about 14 years ago, 2011, to Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, claims that Trump, quote, spent hours at my house. This is an email from Epstein, allegedly, with one of hours at the house spent with one of Epstein's trafficking victims. The Washington Post and The Guardian reporting that one. Another email from about 6 years ago, Johnny, 2019, suggesting that Jeffrey Epstein believed that Trump, quote, knew about the girls and had asked Maxwell to, quote, stop. Politico has reporting on that one this morning. these aren't allegations of a specific crime that are tied to Donald Trump yet. And a lot of people, and most particularly his defenders, will be quick to point that out. But the implication is, of course, if these documents are genuine, the president may have had more awareness, or may have more awareness of what Jeffrey Epstein's accused of, ultimately where the court of public opinion ruled about the misconduct that we're talking about, than Trump has publicly acknowledged in past. And so obviously this is big for a number of reasons, including credibility. Out of the Oval Office, the president, Donald Trump, has repeatedly stated that he cut ties with Jeffrey Epstein years ago, of course, claiming that he had no knowledge of the trafficking, and has called demands for the full Epstein file, the files, a hoax. Those are Trump's words. So now, obviously, there's going to be some wind in the sails of that story for obvious reasons. Also politics, the president holding the most major political office on planet Earth. So a brush with a scandal like this, even for someone like Donald Trump, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I mean by that? Like, they can typically shake stuff like this off, distract almost, cable news, distract the media, influence or shape public narrative where the public attention is at. Even for Donald Trump, this could be devastating, of course. Now, the emails are allegations. It's important to point out that these are not proven facts. And so, mentioning someone's name, when Jeffrey Epstein mentions somebody's name in an email, it's not proof or evidence of wrongdoing. And so a lot of news outlets, the reason why I'm mentioning some of them that are reporting on this, Washington Post, Politico, CBS News, CNN, and others, they're working all to verify this literally as we speak. This story is a developing story. So people will still be watching, will the House Oversight Government Reform Committee press for more disclosure? How will Trump respond directly to this in days to come? Will there be independent investigations? And of course, what I'm most curious to see is what will happen with public opinion. Trump's base, Americans in general, as this story evolves.
Well, it seems like it's 180ing. I mean, it looks like everyone on both sides in the House, the Senate, all political pundits of any nature want this out in the open. And they all agree the same thing. I think we all agree that, men who abuse women, girls, children, let's find them, whoever they are. If they're on the left, they're on the right. Let's get them out in the open. Let's get things, to the surface. But what I think is funny, how the public opinion, which is largely shaped by, I think, obviously right-leaning media who, the left-leaning media is kind of staying away from it because you're right. Nothing is proven yet. We've got this story about the big fake phony check that he wrote to him on his birthday or whatever, which alluded to it being for, a girl. We've got the birthday card. We've got, all the mentions of Trump in the Epstein files, which you could say that about anyone. There's a lot of very high standing people who took his jet or hung out with him or went to parties that he had. Some people even invested in him, gave him money. But for me, where there's smoke, there's fire. A lot of pictures of them together, a lot of them being very chummy. And then all of a sudden, he ditches them and starts to get into politics. But what I think is crazy is, like you said, some of the people who supported Trump, who literally, this is one of the reasons they voted for him. There are people in the States who wanted to see the Epstein files so bad and wanted these people brought to justice so deep inside of them that it was the main reason they voted for Trump. And they thought within the first few months, a few things were going to happen. War in Ukraine was going to be ended. War in Gaza was going to be ended. And Epstein files were going to come to light. Those were the big three things that they said Trump was going to do. And then all of a sudden,
as he drained the swamp.
Yeah. Second term, still trying to drain the swamp. But for me, it was Trump coming on air in a press conference and saying, "Oh, are we still talking about that? You pushed this in your lead up to the election. We're going to release the files. We're going to release the files. We're going to release the files." You said that numerous times. And now I don't even think people are sure what the files are. Like, are we talking about flight logs? Because we've seen that released on the internet. Are we talking about, people who were investing in Jeffrey Epstein or people who were in his sphere, in pictures with him or at parties, whatever? Because we've seen that. So that's the other thing I'm confused about. What exactly are the Epstein files? Are they, the other thing is, Ryan, Apparently, when Jeffrey Epstein was taken into custody, they said literally thousands. And I know we're getting deep into like a conspiracy hole and whether he killed himself or not, and whether the files.
Do you think that he killed himself, or do you think he was murdered?
I think it's questionable about how he came to become deceased. But what
that was a very
what we know for sure is that
calculated response.
Authorities said there were thousands of hours of tapes, of digital video, of audio files. We haven't heard one thing. We haven't heard anything. You don't keep video and digital audio of people coming in and out of your house and at parties and at your different establishments if you're not using it for one thing. And for me, it's maybe not premeditated blackmail, but security. For to have a backup for you because you're involved with these very high profile people, and to not have one freeze frame of a video, to not have one audio file of any of these people, it's a big exclamation point for me.
Greg in our live chats, powered by Park Power, by the way, get exclusive discounts, friends, when you bundle services, internet, electricity, and natural gas at parkpower.ca/realtalk. Save yourself some money. Greg says, Ryan is always trying to make things sticky. Number one, sticky is not the adjective I would use in this case. Here's the Independent. This is the Independent's reporting out of Britain today. Bombshell Epstein emails claim Trump, quote, knew what was going on and asked Maxwell to, quote, stop. House Democrats, of course, releasing those emails, and they've got everybody talking. I don't know that it's me trying to make it sticky. I think it could be a little sticky for the president of the United States right now. But if anybody can find a way to skate away from this, as us Canadians say, it would be Donald Trump. There will be a way to quickly dismiss this.
The Teflon Don.
The Teflon Don. Silence is one of those ways. Silence is one of those methods. Right? Directly attacking it, questioning the credibility of whoever's releasing the emails, et cetera, questioning the credibility of the process, suggesting that you're being unfairly targeted, suggesting that this is something that the left is continuing to do. We'll see which tactics he employs, and we'll see what comes after this. Typically, when something like this, when a bombshell, the word is being used, I mean, if you did a word cloud for the most recurring words on all the headlines, the global headlines today, bombshell would be the biggest word in the word cloud. That's the word they're using. Typically, there's strategy behind the release of a bombshell.
Of course.
What comes next?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about how they used to bomb the cities in World War II. But there's got to be something, and I'm not making light of it. I'm not making light. I'm not trying to do some cute segue here. I'm just saying, I'm sure that there's, you send in the first ones. Yeah. And then you send in the big one. Yeah. I bet that's, there's got to be some strategy there, too, when it comes to stuff like this. If they think that they can get their political opponent, Donald Trump, on his heels.
Sure.
And if they think that they maybe have in a position where he's more vulnerable than he has been in past on this has been the recurring thing. This is, you look at it's not, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example.
I was just going to bring her up. How did you know that?
Well, there's a lot of, we're on the same level. But there's a lot of Republicans. This isn't like a Democrat-Republican thing for the most part.
No,
there are Republicans as well that are saying, you said one thing, President, deliver on it, or also, you've denied certain things. Like, what's the truth? We want to know.
We are now living in a world, and here's a bombshell for you, Real Talkers, where I am on the daily going online and agreeing with MTG and agreeing with Candace Owens.
What to think about that,
because they are saying exactly what everyone is thinking. If both sides want all these things released, if both sides want people brought to justice, if both sides agree that when women, children, especially young women are being abused, whoever they are, let's get them. And Donald Trump is saying, are we still talking about that? Let's forget about that. That's a big exclamation point to me. And it just seems crazy that some of his supporters have said, you know what? You're right. Let's move on, because we can't move on. And, people scream like, well, the Biden administration had all the information. They didn't release it. That was a different time. Ghislaine Maxwell all those documents were sealed and then unsealed. And then you can't release things when people are, facing charges in court, in front of a jury, all that. So my hope is that if we don't find out by the end of Trump's term, whoever gets in next, whether it's another Republican, or whether it's, a Democrat, that they have access and that they finally bring these things to light. But the longer it goes, the older these people get involved, the more of them die, the more of them start buying islands and fortresses and whatever, because these are rich elite people who are involved with Jeffrey Epstein. The more they start, lawyering up and hiding evidence and destroying, the longer it goes on. And we see all these victims that have come forward and have these are people who have cloudy memories of these things. We have people in interviews. We have specific people, some of them anonymous, some of them who come forward and said, these things happened to me. These people were there. Donald Trump was around. Prince Philip, is that it? Yeah.
Well, Prince Andrew.
Andrew. These people were on islands with young girls.
There were a lot of people too, though. Like Bill Clinton's had ties. I'm not going to get sort of deep into the Epstein thing.
I'm not.
I'll be honest. I feel like I've been less obsessed with it than the average person.
Well, we forgot about it. Now you've drummed it up on a.
Well, because I'm just trying to make things sticky, like Greg says. But no, I mean, like it or not, I understand why Trump supporters, wouldn't love this story today, right? Like, go for it in our live chat. Go for it. Says, so we have a horrid budget, and this is the subject? Just a reminder, friends, if you go to our YouTube channel, our Real Talk Ryan Jesperson YouTube channel, thanks to everybody that subscribes, you can find comprehensive political analysis, business takes, some of the social or public service interpretations of the budget through our past number of episodes, including our special episode, Budget 2025 Breakdown, Jobs, the Economy, and Housing, with back-to-back Real Talk roundtables. We'll talk budget with Brian Lilley as well. But
not
to
enough
pretend like this story about Donald Trump isn't a story, would be burying our heads in the sand. Bruce in our chat says, drained the swamp maybe, but put all the dregs into one golden ballroom. Scarlett says it may not be today, she says, but I have a feeling. She says it'll come eventually, maybe 10 years from now. She says, but Trump will fall. Others, I think it was Aaron I saw in here in our live chat. Thanks for everybody, by the way, that's kicking in on the live chat. We love seeing these conversations unfold. One of you said, I don't know. I think it was Aaron, just said, it just seems like he can kind of get away from this stuff. It's Donald Trump. He's kind of unlike anybody else. Erica says it's a potential bombshell until there's something undeniable that's going to stick. It's not a bombshell. Erica, you could probably make the argument.
Yeah. And I'll grab some clips tomorrow to play of MTG lately, because it's crazy how she's been just, before she was kind of deflecting, and now she's zeroed in, and not just on Donald Trump. She's in there calling out all these representatives and saying they're cowards, they're elderly men who don't want to, disrupt their pensions afterwards, after their political careers. They're scared to stand up for women. They're scared to stand up for, the poor. And I'm looking at the screen going, oh my God, I am living in the upside down. I am in the twilight zone. I am agreeing and nodding my head as Marjorie Taylor Greene is on my phone.
Tony says Marjorie Taylor Greene has publicly stated, MTG, that she look at all this. She says MTG has publicly stated she still loves DJT, but there are some issues that she feels that her party is missing the plot on. Tracy says it looks like Prince Andrew might actually be the only one that's actually lost anything based on his behavior. Yeah, Andrew's probably paid the highest price, I guess, with the royal family kind of deciding that they're going to create some healthy distance between him.
Didn't he lose? He lost all his royal everything titles just recently, I think a month ago.
Imagine what that adjustment would be like.
He's pretty much a civilian, but even then, he's living. This is a guy who let's say we're talking about Donald Trump, but this is a guy who, his victim has told a concise and specific story from the beginning. She's put her face in public. There's photos of them together. Him, Ghislaine, Maxwell, and the victim. And he's been stripped of everything, but does he ever have to work again? He's living a cushy life. He's still got a royal, bank account that's allowing him to eat and live and not be in jail.
Royal bank account.
It's a miscarriage of justice. This guy should be in jail. This guy should be in front of a jury of his peers, having fingers pointed at him. All this stuff should come to light. And it's just the worst when it's kids or young women, right? And the fact that you've got, men and women in the Senate, in the House, part of Donald Trump's team, who are turning a blind eye to this. It is the worst miscarriage of justice. It is the worst. There are people out there who were, raped, abused, and used as things by people with money, and those people are just laughing. They're living their lives.
A lot of people are just not surprised at all that like the rich and powerful have these sort of
but this is our chance.
And this type of thing. Right?
This is our chance to have audio, video, email evidence, and convict people.
Carrie's watching us live on Facebook this morning in our live stream presented by California Closets. What's up, Carrie? Says Trump has blood on his hands in the Epstein mess, hands down, as do many other big names. When she says blood on his hands, I wonder if she's speaking like metaphorically, like he's implicit, complicit, or if she's implying that maybe Trump had something to do with Epstein's passing. Blood on his hands, says Carrie, as do many other big names. She says it will be brought to light eventually. Sadly, many will probably be dead and not have to face the music. That from Carrie. Brian Lilley coming up on the show. We're going to get to your emails, including a great Remembrance Day one, kind of a Canadian Forces focus from Carmen, Real Talker Carmen, who wrote in. But I wanted to get to this email, Johnny. This is absolutely fantastic. From AJ, wrote into the show to talk at ryanjesperson.com, and the subject line just said, "Damn it, Jespo." So you know I was going to click on it right away. Jumped right out of my inbox. He says, Jespo, he says your Thursday episode, so he's talking late last week. He says our Thursday episode cost him like $140.
What?
And I just right away was like, oh no. We try to make sure that we keep money in your jeans, Real Talkers. We try to help you out. AJ says, my daughter tells me that I'm just very, easily influenced by social media, which actually may have proven itself to be a little bit true. Now, the background here, guys, we've been talking to you about this Whiskey Rose, this special edition, limited edition whiskey, the whiskey donated by our friends, our wonderful friends at Hanson Distillery, and bottled by them as well. They donated the bottling, they donated the labels, which means that each of these bottles, there's 250 of them, that are selling for $100 a pop. All of the proceeds, as we celebrated, Johnny's showing you that photo, we celebrated last week at Hanson Distillery. All the proceeds will go to the YWCA's Rose campaign to help end violence against women, girls, gender minorities. So we're pretty excited about this. We're happy to do our part to help. It's a wonderful program. Christine McCourt-Reed, interim CEO of the Y, was on the show talking about it. You can go back into our archives just a few episodes ago. So AJ heard that interview, and AJ heard us talking about Whiskey Rose. He says, now I was in the Metro Edmonton region, had some errands to run out on the West End, which is right by Hanson. They're right by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, right there on 174th Street, 111th Ave, if you're anywhere in Edmonton. Says it took me right past Hanson Distillery, AJ's errands. He says, so I stopped in, I picked up a bottle of Whiskey Rose. Attaboy, AJ. Says, such an important cause we should all get behind. As Christine, the CEO, was talking about on your show, Jespo, it's really important for men to step up and most importantly, speak up. AJ says, I am in my early 40s, says I've been married for 21 years. I've got two daughters that are 16 and 18. And one of my biggest concerns is that they venture further out into the world on their own. And other men, may not treat them as they should be treated. Says this all starts so early. Many times as young boys, the insecurities that boys can have as teens can twist and manifest in negative ways if the right guidance isn't provided. Says I've already started to see that happen. It's infuriating. We need to make sure that young boys and men learn how to be better humans. We need law enforcement to be better at supporting and protecting the vulnerable from abuse. Says we need the courts to enforce the laws to better protect survivors, which probably means putting abusive partners in jail for much longer than the current system currently does. Says what happens today in gender-based violence, domestic violence cases is disgusting. It's far too lenient. It needs to change. I agree. He says far too many are let off easy. They violate court orders. Their targets suffer the consequences, which is too often with their lives. Says I really hope that efforts like the Rose campaign will be successful, and I encourage everyone to support. So AJ picks up a bottle of Whiskey Rose, and I'm going, but hang on a second, that's $100. AJ says that the episode cost him $140. He says now the other $40 was a stop at the brand new Mother Dough Bread Co. The new Mother Dough Bread Company, which Friesen Brothers has just opened for sandwiches. AJ says they were absolutely fantastic. Part of me hopes that they open another shop closer to my work on the south side. He says, but I'm also glad they're across town, so I'm not going to be tempted to buy a sandwich every single day. That from AJ, who went in there and checked out the new Mother Dough Bread Co. So nice. I followed up, and I wanted a report. I wanted a report for Real Talkers as we provide this service. And I said, well, how were the sandwiches? And he let me know he had the slow-cooked barbecue pork, said it was delicious. a perfect baguette, not too chewy, not too crunchy, just perfection. Says the pork was tender, juicy with fresh slaw. Now he's speaking my language. Said it had just the right amount of tangy sweetness. His daughter had the Italian capicola ham. Says the sourdough, in her words, was the perfect thickness. It was the perfect texture to not become too soggy, but still it soaked up the pesto that infused itself into every bite. What a Real Talk report this is from AJ. He says, I would have liked to have the bread slightly toasted, but the freshness ingredients made up for it. It was a filling and fresh sandwich accompanied by a refreshing Alberta-made Annex soda. That from AJ. That is what we would call a praise report from AJ, who wrote that into talk at ryanjesperson.com. Is Brian Lilley hanging out with us right now? Before we get there, motherdoughbreadco.com is where you can learn more about that. It's on the West End. It's a brand new venture from our friends at Friesen Brothers, and we're thrilled for them and on their behalf. While you're shopping, if you're out there, of course, in downtown Edmonton, we keep encouraging you to check out the Helm Clothing. Beautiful 3-story retail experience. Just beautiful. But I want to talk to you about the Helm's website right now, thehelmclothing.com. This is a fantastic resource for casual and custom luxury menswear. This is the biggest brands. And, of course, the best selection. You can see it online at thehelmclothing.com. Browse their brands, including their latest arrivals today. The Luigi Bianchi collection right now is absolutely unbelievable. These are my favorite blazers on planet Earth. The fit is incomparable. You can see him in studio. Johnny's showing you right now the fall and winter collection that's out at the Helm, just about a block from our studio. But if you're anywhere outside of Edmonton, in particular audience members of ours maybe tuning in from BC, Ontario, outside of Alberta, thehelmclothing.com is where you can go to check it all out. These are some unique and, in many cases, exclusive collections. And with the promo code REALTALK, all one word, REALTALK, they're going to take 10% off your entire online order. That's the promo code REALTALK when you get started today at thehelmclothing.com. Our friends at Solar by Kubi with a fantastic new initiative. We were talking about this yesterday on Remembrance Day. This is their brand new Powering Those Who Protect program. If you're a first responder, first of all, thank you for your service. The team at Kubi wants to make sure that they lighten the load, the financial commitment of going green, and that's why they're offering a 5% discount on solar systems for first responders and others who serve our communities. If you're a police officer, firefighter, paramedic, an EMT, a nurse, search and rescue, if you dispatch at 911, if you're a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, anywhere in Western Canada, Kubi is proud to knock 5% off your solar system through their Powering Those Who Protect program. You can also combine this discount with existing rebates and government incentives, which will definitely lower the upfront cost, John, is what you would say, of going solar and improving your ROI, the return on that investment. Get your free solar quote today at kubi.ca. That's KUBY.ca. And before we get to Brian Lilley, before we talk politics, I want to talk to you about the amazing work being done by UCAN Youth Services. We were so proud to support Real Talk was their celebration night just the other week, and I hosted a fireside chat there with 3 graduates, I guess you'd call them, alumni of their 3 different programs. Their Relentless Outreach, which is working with young people that are in and out of trouble with the law, 12 to 17 years old. And then the Verto and the Road to Work programs. These are Earn While You Learn programs that are helping young adults, 18 to 25, out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence by teaching them the skills, getting them the certification to enter the trades, to enter the retail industry and other job placement opportunities. Incredible proof of performance with UCAN Youth Services, and they're growing with a new location this year. That means that their capital campaign has $2.5 million as the goal. We're committed to helping them, and we're asking those of you that are in a position to consider a donation to make an impact on the workforce of tomorrow, the leaders of tomorrow, to consider UCAN Youth Services at ucan.ca. Well, Brian Lilley is one of Canada's most read Conservative commentators, writes regularly in the Toronto Sun and has always been a good friend to this show. But, Brian, we were saying, Johnny and I, that it's been a while since we've had you, and it's nice to have you back.
Yeah.
Thanks for making time.
Wait, what I've learned from listening to the show this morning is I got to get back to Edmonton because I need a bottle of whiskey, I
Yes.
need a sandwich, and I need a blazer.
This sounds
I'm
like
not sure what I do with the solar, given where I live. Wow, I'm red on that screen.
No, you look good. I don't think you. You look healthy. You've got some color to you. The solar segue is undeniable, and I have to ask you about the EV mandate. I got to ask you about Carney's environmental critics within the caucus. But before we do, I wanted to ask you about something yesterday. I'll be honest. I was embarrassed. I was shocked to realize I was having lunch with a buddy, lives in New York, works in hockey. Shout out to Thomas Hickey, works in hockey commentary. And he was doing the game, the Amazon game in Edmonton, and then he's on his way to Ontario. And he was talking to me how there was some mix-ups, some confusion because the people they were coordinating with, some of them were at work, some of them weren't. And we both realized at that time that Remembrance Day is not a stat in several Canadian provinces, including Ontario. I had no idea.
It's really weird. Government gets it off. So, I'm talking to you right now from Queen's Park, the Ontario legislature. This place was quiet yesterday, except for some politicians like Premier Ford and some ministers, some veterans, the lieutenant governor. They were all here because there's a beautiful war memorial that was built about 10, 15 years ago outside that they hold the Remembrance Day ceremonies at. And so they were all here for that. Other than that, this place was shut down. Government workers, both federal and provincial, are off. When I covered the Remembrance Day ceremonies at the National War Memorial for years, I'd always go back into my office in Center Block and it'd be empty because the federal workers have it off. But private sector, it depends. Some banks take it off, but my wife works for in the private sector. She was at work yesterday as well. When I was a kid, we got Remembrance Day off school.
Yeah.
Now, I'm older than dinosaurs. So that was a while ago. But at a certain point, they said, you know what? It's better for the kids to be in school and learn about it. And I got to say, I agree with that because I was involved in Remembrance Day plays and presentations and ceremonies that we would do that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Yeah.
Before it was just a day off.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess you never, and that's always kind of the thing. I think of Remembrance Day, and I think of on September 30th, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. A lot of people refer to it as a day off, and then a lot of people hold the day in great reverence for obvious reasons. It's very important to them.
Yeah.
They want to do everything they can to get people paying attention to it. I don't know. It just seems like optically, it seems weird that it's not a stat.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a holiday.
Yeah.
It is a somber day. I'll tell you this: in Ottawa, most retail, especially downtown, do not open until noon. So that everyone can go.
It's
and I like that, and that's good.
Yeah.
And there was a big debate here about whether National Day of Truth and Reconciliation should be a stat. The feds didn't make it a stat.
Right.
They left it up to the provinces. And the education minister here said, I believe kids should be in school on that day to learn about what happened and why we mark the day. And there's a solid argument for that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just checking out here the provinces that do recognize, for reference, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation as a stat. Just for BC, Manitoba, PEI, and Northwest Territories. So, yeah, interesting to know. I don't know. It just wasn't on my radar. I had no idea. I've been too Alberta-centric. This is why we need to reach out to you and others from our neighboring and far-off provinces for analysis. Hey, take us into this story of yours in The Sun today. I mean, we've spent a lot of time, everybody's spent a lot of time talking about Chris d'Entremont and maybe Matt Genereux and kind of the Liberal fishing expedition to turn a minority into a majority government. But as you have reported today at TorontoSun.com, Mark Carney's Liberals have their own internal drama happening. What's going on?
Oh, and after I publish this, you never know. Are you going to get clapback? Are you going to get, people in the party that you're talking about snapping at you and saying, this is all false? No, I got the opposite. I got, oh, yeah,
really?
This is happening. So Mark Carney, of course, paused the EV mandate a little while ago. Donald Trump got rid of the EV mandate. That's part of why we were doing it, was to follow along with the Americans. But with all the changes in the auto industry, the threat to the auto industry, the fact that the Americans weren't doing it, us meeting our EV mandate was going to be, well, next to impossible. The industry had already been telling the Trudeau government prior and then the Carney government, look, this is too stringent. This is the mandate that says starting January 1st, 20% of all vehicles sold, cars and trucks, must be zero emission vehicles. They said, look, the industry's not there. We're willing to play along. We're willing to be partners, but we can't meet this 2035 target. Carney gets in, A lot of pressure on him. He pauses it, says they'll do a review. The review's not out yet, but what I was told, and it's been confirmed, is the review will recommend keeping the mandate in place. Maybe it doesn't take effect until 27, maybe 28, but and then still going to that 2035 mark, maybe a year or two beyond that to meet the 100% zero emission vehicles. Why is he doing that? It's horrible economic policy right now. And with Trump trying to say we're going to take all auto assembly jobs down to the United States, it really puts us in jeopardy of one of Canada's major industries. You know, we've got oil, we've got canola, we got wheat, we got cars. Those are some of the biggest industries going. They're all under pressure. So why do this to yourself? It's party politics. There's a bunch of liberals who are true green believers. That is what drives them. They should really be in the Green Party if you're that much of a single issue voter, that comes before everything. You'd think they'd go green, but no, they went liberal to get in power. And some of them have threatened to leave.
Yeah.
And if you look at someone like Jonathan Wilkinson in North Vancouver, that's a bit of a swing riding. Before he held it, it was held by the Conservatives. There was one term for the Liberals in 2006. And before that, it was a Reform and Canadian Alliance riding for years. So they could lose that riding if Wilkinson doesn't play ball. Stephen Guilbeault and Honoré Mercier in Montreal. That's been held by the Bloc and the NDP prior to him taking it. And, you know, people may not realize it, but Stephen Guilbeault is a bit of a star in Quebec. It may puzzle you. It puzzles me. But he has long been a star in Quebec. And so he's got to keep those people happy. There's a new Liberal environmental caucus that's been formed to try and push him on climate change and say, you know, you got rid of the consumer carbon tax, don't go any further. So he's trying to move the country to the center, away from where Justin Trudeau had it, trying to move his party. He's got to, you know, reach back and hold them on. So they're still doing a full court press on Conservatives, by the way.
Yeah, I want to get to more on that in just a bit, but I would just, for those that are just joining us, by the way, we're talking to Brian Lilley in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Brian, I certainly don't speak on behalf of one of the world's largest auto manufacturers, but even with our alignment with Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West, I've been in the dealership, I've been looking around, and after I think it was watching the Masters last April, or maybe it was 2 Aprils ago, Mercedes rolled out like a bold new ad campaign, and they were like showing all their new EVs, and of course they were like amazing, they looked really cool, but I didn't see a ton of them in the showroom, and I was asking about it, and they were letting me know. They said that like Mercedes is among the world's largest auto manufacturers that have dialed back or that have let's say become less bullish on their plans for EVs. And what's that based on? That's based on demand. That's based on like what consumers are looking for. Now I recognize that governments in circumstances in past have made changes that have impacted industries in the name of whatever it was, emissions reduction, public safety, or otherwise. And oftentimes government needs to show leadership there. But in this case, I look at it, it just almost sort of gets it almost feels like the square peg, round hole thing when government's trying to dictate what an industry is going to look like in a relatively short period of time. Like 10 years is not a lot of time for an entire auto industry to pivot to get entirely off internal combustion. It just has never seemed realistic to me, to be honest.
And I don't think it is either. And I'm not one of these people opposed to EVs. There's a lot of Ubers that are Teslas. They're amazing vehicles.
Sure.
Some of the, the standard auto manufacturers, if they will, some of their EVs are fantastic. Those Bright Drop delivery trucks that, they just announced they're stopping the assembly of here in Ontario. Those are great vehicles and they're perfect for an urban environment. But an EV as it stands now isn't for everyone in every instance. They also cost more. And so if you're doing well, that's not an issue. But if you're looking at a Honda Civic versus a Honda Civic EV, that costs significantly more. And people were only buying them due to large government subsidies. The two places that have the highest EV sales are BC and Quebec. They account for an overwhelming majority of it. And why? Because there was a federal subsidy to buy an EV, plus there were significant provincial subsidies.
Right.
So if you've got to give people $15,000 from the government to buy a car, that's not a good business case long term.
Yeah, go for it. In our live chat says the minute, like you just says the minute they took EV funding or subsidies off, sales dropped dramatically.
Below 10%, 7 to 8% over the past several months. StatsCan tracks this.
What are you saying? 7-8% of total auto sales is EVs?
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 in 10. Yeah, I mean, I don't disparage EVs. I mean, Johnny, the producer of this show, is pretty keen on getting an EV. I'm putting you on the spot, Johnny, a little bit, but maybe the next vehicle purchase. I'm sure many of the audience, probably most of the audience, has friends who drives EVs or they drive EVs. It's not a shot against EVs. I'm just noting what I see, where consumer demand is, where people are spending their money, what people are driving.
But Mercedes has pulled back.
Yeah.
Volkswagen has pulled back. Ford was going heavy. I mean, they're bringing out the F-150 Lightning. I don't know if you've been in that truck. Goes fast as snot. My brother-in-law has one. Scares the heck out of me when I'm in it with them. They were bringing out an EV version of that. They've scaled back production. At the beginning, there was huge demand for them, and then it fell off. So the producers are saying, look, the customers aren't there yet. Work with us. In the States, they've pulled back. I think even California Governor Gavin Newsom will pull back a little bit. I spend some time in California. You see a lot more EVs there than elsewhere. But let me tell you, Palm Springs, you don't have to worry about minus 40 weather making your EV a lot less viable. So the government needs to work with industry. And when you've got all the auto manufacturers saying, we'll work with you, but this doesn't work, maybe listen to them. Toyota looks like they're going to be the smartest one. They never went all in on EV. They make them. I mean, of course, Toyota's famous for the Prius, the first big EV to break through.
Yeah.
But their idea was plug-in hybrid is the better way to go. And that will be more sustainable. You'll get people adopting it, and then you'll move on. Work with them on that. That still brings down emissions significantly. My father-in-law drives a hybrid. He barely fills up at the gas station. Work with them on that, but they're not doing it. And the reason they're not doing it isn't good economics. It's party politics. He's got to keep his Liberal MPs in the fold, or it doesn't matter how many Conservative MPs he poaches, he's not going to get his majority.
We're talking to Brian Lilley in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West in our live chat. Odds and Sods, a great handle, says, I've been driving an EV since 2021. It replaced my wife's Caravan with an EV in 23, so they've got two of them in the household. Says we have no intention of going back to combustion drive. Darren says once you drive an EV, you won't want to go back to internal combustion. They're so much more fun. They're so much quieter. Darren, that's what I hate about them. He says they're cheaper. He says they're cheaper to run. No maintenance. He says I never stand outside to pump gas. How about this from Corradetti Motorsports? Great to have you watching. Says cars are an emotional purchase and people are creatures of habit. Says, but EVs are better than internal combustion in every way. Corradetti says, I run a performance driving school, had an EV, but every time it became a political argument. So this is about, I mean, we've had the conversation before. This was, the Paris commitment, like there's, talking about lifting an emissions cap, like, Carney comes in as, people are calling him the banker. He's a business guy. His number one job is to get Canada's economy back on track, to hammer out decent trade deals. And he's obviously approaching things differently than Justin Trudeau. How realistic do you think the threat? We asked him September 10th when he was on here. I asked him about this new environmental caucus within his larger caucus. He goes, that's not a big deal. He says, we have all kinds of different caucuses, and he's not wrong. But how significant do you think the threat could be? Those are a couple of big names. Guilbeault that you're talking about, Wilkinson, those are big names.
So let me put it to you this way. There was a meeting in Calgary back in the spring. I think it was early June, maybe it was late May. Carney goes to Calgary. He has a meeting with the oil industry, oil and gas sector, all these executives in the room with him. And, he's made it clear that he's going to be different than Trudeau, and he's open to talking with them. And he sits down, he makes his case. He listens politely. He agrees with them on a lot of things. And then at the end, he says, but I have a cabinet and caucus to manage.
Yeah.
That was a shocking statement to me. First off, most of those Liberal MPs, if it weren't for Mark Carney, would be unemployed. They would not be members of Parliament anymore. Without Justin Trudeau resigning and Mark Carney coming in, the Liberals were destined to lose. And I think if they had picked any of the other, leading lights in their caucus, if they had picked, a Melanie Joly or Chrystia Freeland or anybody else, I think the Conservatives would have won. Mark Carney is why these people have their jobs, but they're apparently wielding so much power that he's keeping the EV mandate. He's telling the oil and gas sector, look, I agree with you on some of this stuff, but you know, we can't move forward on it. Interesting that in the new list of projects that he's going to announce tomorrow, but that was amazingly leaked to CBC late yesterday, there's another LNG project, but it doesn't touch Alberta, and it won't because he wants David Eby on side, and BC's premier will not agree or be quiet about any pipeline project, natural gas or oil coming out of Alberta. So they're going to approve an LNG export facility in Prince Rupert. This has been on the books for a little while, people trying to get it going. Carney government's going to get behind it. And it takes gas from northeastern British Columbia, takes it to Prince Rupert for liquefaction and then export. Look, it's a good project. It should go ahead, but it is just interesting that there is still nothing there for Alberta. I know Premier Smith is being very patient, and she's looking for an MOU with the federal government, but this is a guy who's going all in on LNG and dragging his feet on oil. And quite frankly, if you want to diversify and break away from reliance on the US, I think oil has to be part of the equation. And he just doesn't seem to see that at the moment.
We talked to Supriya Dwivedi about this on Monday, on the 10th of November. Carney's comments in front of at the Canadian Club, Toronto, calling pipelines boring, essentially. And then he kind of goes on from there. To be fair to the Prime Minister, he goes on and sort of explains what he's talking about. Not a lot of people in the room, presumably working on pipelines. I'm assuming a lot of people,
he was in Toronto.
Real estate. He was in Toronto, right? And so he goes, it's kind of boring. And he's kind of yucking it up. He was actually very casual about a pretty big proposal from a pretty significant province when you're talking about what's driving Canada's economy. Supriya took it. She told us in that episode, people can check it out. She took it as like it's boring, as like it's a foregone conclusion, like it's going to get done. Like that's boring, that's done. Do you share the same thought?
No, not yet. And that's through discussions with Premier Smith's office, not with the Premier directly, but with folks in her office. They're unsure where things are going. I mean, they're very open to working with Mark Carney in a way that they weren't with Justin Trudeau, mainly because Justin Trudeau wasn't interested in working with them. But they don't know where things are going to land. And his answer, right? Apparently, he knows the woman that was interviewing very well from her time at BNN. Her name's Amber Kenwar. But I found him very dismissive of her, with the boring and talking over her and saying that there are no regulatory issues facing the oil and gas sector. Talk to Francois Poirier at TC Energy. Talk to Greg Ebel at Enbridge. Talk to people at Imperial or elsewhere. They will tell you that the regulatory issues are there. But when he said the pipelines are boring and he was yucking it up, and who's working on the pipeline here? Well, it's a downtown Toronto business crowd. Probably a couple, but not many. He pointed at Navdeep Bains, former cabinet minister in the Trudeau government, who's now with Rogers. And he says, Nav, you working on the pipeline? Well, no, he works for Rogers. He was trying to say that pipelines aren't that exciting or important here. There's a lot more going on. And yeah, Canada's economy is about more than pipelines, but it is also a quarter of our exports. A dollar value, it's a quarter of our exports. We can't deny it. And it's crazy to say, well, we'll just leave it in the ground. Carney's not saying that anymore. He has in the past. But there's an awful lot of his caucus, these people that I say he's trying to keep inside, Wilkinson and Guilbeault just being the two big names. There are people in his caucus that say, no, we got to leave it in the ground. Doesn't matter that Russia will drill for it and export it. Doesn't matter that Venezuela will. Places with far fewer environmental regulations or concerns, they just believe that Canada should be holier than the preacher's wife.
We're talking to Brian Lilley in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. I do want to talk to you about budget. I want to pick your brain on a couple of things. I also want to ask you, I think you called it the full court press. You said it remains on. The Carney Liberals are still fishing, looking to poach. I don't want to just say, let me say opposition MPs, because it's not guaranteed that they would all be Conservatives. More with Brian Lilley in just a moment. You can, of course, read his work at torontosun.com, talking about Alberta's energy industry, talking about oil and gas, and Canada's economy. Pathways Alliance, you can find them online at pathwaysalliance.ca, is the 6 biggest oil sands companies working together to help grow Canada's economy. I think it's pretty obvious that Canada benefits from a strong energy sector. Did you know that the oil and gas sector supports over 445,000 jobs across the country while generating billions in tax and royalty revenue? So the contributions of the oil sands industry is helping fund roads and bridges, schools, and more. You can learn more about this, including how these companies, the world's most significant oil sands companies, the 6 biggest in Canada, are working together, number 1, to provide energy the world needs, but number 2, to advance environmental innovation and projects. Some pretty interesting conversations on this show over the past couple of weeks on carbon capture and storage, including a Real Talk roundtable you can catch from a couple of Fridays ago. Energy, the economy, and the environment. A great conversation. Again, pathwaysalliance.ca for more on that. California Closets, best in the business in custom closets and storage solutions for the whole home. Proudly Canadian-owned and operated. As a manufacturer based out of Alberta, they're sourcing everything they install as close to home as they can. And when it's installed in your home, you have the confidence that it is guaranteed for life. It all starts with a free design consultation. Sit down at no risk to you. Tap into the brain power of California Closets designers who can work with any space. They can work with your budget, just like they worked with ours 8 years ago. Still looks as good today as it did the day it was installed. You can book that free consultation today at californiaclosets.ca. Athabasca University putting out the call for folks across Canada who are getting serious about pursuing that post-secondary journey. If you've been thinking about going back to school, Athabasca University is Canada's open university, serving students coast to coast with 35 online master's and doctorate programs. The only commute is to your device. AU is designed to fit your life. For ambitious people across Canada and beyond, AU offers flexible approaches to higher education. You can check it out today at athabascau.ca. And I saw some of the comments in the chat earlier today. Someone goes, S&P 500, baby. Everybody's paying attention to how the markets are moving. As news breaks, this is the way that it goes. At North Road Investment Council, more and more of their private clients and institutions are asking that question. If most mutual funds aren't keeping up with the benchmark, why not just own the benchmark? Research from S&P in 2024 shows that over 80% of Canadian equity mutual funds underperform the index they track. At North Road Investment Council, they're designing customized passive portfolios that'll capture index returns while respecting your values and preferences. You can learn more about that. Why North Road celebrates competitive markets by visiting their website today. You'll find North Road Investment Council online at northroadic.com. Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilley, our guest in this special episode of the show. Brian, I guess, do you call it a bombshell? We were debating earlier today, on the Trump story. When does bombshell fit? The Chris d'Entremont floor crossing was a bombshell. Would you agree?
Yeah, I'd agree on that. I'm not sure on Trump because I was so focused. I've got a new piece on d'Entremont and the backstory to his floor crossing that's being edited right now. It'll be up in a minute. We can talk about it. I was so focused on that. I didn't see the Trump thing. And then I'm listening to you, talk about it on the show. I'm like, I got to catch up on this, but I haven't had time yet. Look, it's absolutely bizarre that Trump is saying, are we still talking about this? But I found it just as bizarre when he was talking about it in the election and Democrats saying, are we still talking about this? It's like nobody wants the files out.
I think there's a lot of names in those files.
Oh, yeah. So I am not one of the, Bill Clinton's definitely in there in a pedo or Trump's definitely in there in a pedo. I think their names are in there. I think it will cause problems for them, but wow. There we go. On my own papers.
On your own papers homepage.
Use Jeffrey Epstein emails released. Mock Donald Trump as dog that hasn't barked. I'm surprised it hasn't formed more of a split among a lot of Trump's MAGA supporters. I remember when he said he wasn't going to release all of them. And then folks like Benny Johnson, who's got a massive audience in the United States, in that world, we're talking in the millions. he was demanding, no, you've got to release them. And then I guess they released more, but not everything. And it's a weird mess.
Yeah, it is a weird mess. So like I said earlier today, you got to kind of like wait for more details. We know what we know right now. I know that people are number one combing through all of the emails that were released to see, let's be honest, the most salacious or the most damning.
You're doing control F, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Control F, looking for the names, looking for the keywords, but also verifying the authenticity of it all and the like. But it's certainly going to dictate the news cycle, I think, at least over the next 12, 24 hours, and we'll see what happens from there. The Chris D'Entremont floor crossing, shaves that magic number for the Liberals from 3 to 2 to maintain confidence in the House to get their budget passed. And I mean, I guess people are starting to talk now, instead of trying to win votes from Don Davies-led NDP MPs, they're now actually trying to morph the government into a majority. What's the word in Ontario?
So they're going after all kinds of folks. They're going after Bloc MPs, New Democrats, and yes, Conservatives. Doesn't seem like any more Conservatives are going to cross. In my view, if they were going to, they would have. And some of the names that Liberals are floating are just insane. Like, makes no sense. I won't say the latest one because, these guys are saying it's not happening.
Oh, just say it. What's the latest one they're saying?
Well, so one that I have said before is Liberals were feeding me a couple of weeks ago that Michael Chong was going to cross. I didn't even call or text Michael. I've known him a long time, since his first or second election covering the Hill. So that's, 15 plus years. And there's no way that Michael Chong is becoming a Liberal. He's very impassioned about foreign affairs and thinks this government's going in the wrong direction on a number of files. He's not going to do that. But I'll tell you how crazy it is. I was on Bill Carroll's radio show in Ottawa, and I said, Bill, like, the feeding frenzy is so nuts that Liberals are trying to tell me Michael Chong's crossing. That's not happening. An hour later, I get a call from Michael. I heard you were just on radio saying that I was crossing the floor. Right. I'm not. Yeah. So people took me saying Michael Chong's not crossing to mean he was. You've got folks who Liberals are saying, yeah, we're lobbying this guy heavily. And then you talk to him and they say, I haven't even talked to anyone in the Liberal caucus.
Well, Brian, do you think so? Like Michael Chong, I think back to his, his sort of his run at Conservative leadership. And I remember at that time, we're talking years ago, but at that time, I seem to remember, correct me if I'm wrong, he was the only Conservative MP at that time, or certainly the only leadership candidate that was open to considering a carbon tax, where he was talking about carbon pricing. He was always kind of seen as one of the small p, small c progressive Conservatives. You think people are just taking a look at all the progressives, Matt Genereux out of Alberta included, and assuming that maybe they are being approached?
Well, I know Genereux was approached.
Yeah.
Whether that meeting happened or not, I don't know.
PMO said it happened.
Sorry?
PMO said the meeting happened.
No, PMO would not confirm to the Star. It was anonymous Liberal sources, unless that's changed.
Okay, that's changed, maybe anonymous Liberal sources.
So anonymous Liberal sources were telling Tonda McCharles at the Star, who's solid reporter, at my competition, but not going to slag her because I've worked alongside her. Solid reporter.
Class act, Lilley.
She has several senior Liberals saying the PM met with Genereux. Genereux is telling people like Andrew Scheer, the House Leader, and opposition whip Chris Warkentin from out your way, that never happened. So somebody's lying. Is it Genereux? Or is it the anonymous Liberal sources? I'm not saying McCharles. It's either Genereux or the anonymous Liberal sources. Somebody's lying in a meeting on whether a meeting took place. My whole view of this is now a destabilization effort by the Liberals. They are going to play with the minds of the Conservatives, try to undermine Pierre Poilievre ahead of his January leadership review, because they want him gone. Pierre Poilievre is still a threat. I know that the narrative is out there among some, nobody likes him, nobody would vote for him, he's falling in the polls. 338 Canada polling averages, 43 for the Liberals, 40 for the Conservatives. You know what that gets you? If we go to a spring election, which is a real possibility, get you another Liberal minority, which is not what Carney wants. And if the election's on affordability and the numbers are like that, well, guess what? Poilievre wins on affordability and cost of living issues and fixing the housing market. So he's a threat to them still. I think that all of this pushing to say, that folks are looking to join is an attempt to destabilize the party, destabilize the opposition, destabilize Poilievre. It's good politics on their part. Whether people join them and cross the floor or not doesn't matter. It's having the desired effect of having the opposition fight itself rather than you.
Do you think, when you say that you think a spring election, I don't know, did you say very likely or quite likely or possible?
I said it's quite a possibility.
Quite a possibility. Do you think that would be of Carney's own volition? In other words, he's going to go seek another mandate from Canadians, or do you think he gets forced into that position?
Look, you can either just be bold and brass and say, I need a mandate, or you can be like, I think it was the 2021 election that Justin Trudeau made it sound like Parliament wasn't working. Meanwhile, all the opposition parties were trying to make it work, and he was just saying no to them on everything, do it my way or the highway. So you, as a government, you can go about it both ways. If things are going well for the Carney Liberals, and I were them, I'd seek a mandate. Either if you get a deal with Trump, you can go on that and say, well, I'm getting close to a deal, but I need a mandate from the Canadian people that this is the right way forward. Or if you can't get a deal with the Canadian people, I need a mandate, the opposition's being obstructionist and I'm trying to do what's best for the Canadian economy. Those are the sorts of messages that he could play. But if things aren't going well, if it's still the way it is now, that's not good for a spring election. That's why I think they're trying to take out Poilievre, or at least damage him.
Do you, like, when you talk about Poilievre's polling and the likability, I know that, d'Entremont's, and again, there's different accounts of this. We're hearing different accounts from d'Entremont and Andrew Scheer and Warkentin and others. His version of it, d'Entremont, is like, basically, as all this was unfolding, I'm being a little bit lazy. I'm playing a little fast and loose with the facts here, but he basically made it sound like Andrew Scheer kicked the door in and came in like screaming and yelling. Like, it sounded like it was a bit of a shit show. And then Scheer's basically, and again, I'm being casual with the recollection here, but Scheer's thing was like, I remember it differently. That didn't happen. It was a respectful conversation.
Well, the CBC is the one that ran with the screaming headline about the screaming and pushing in the door and knocking over a staffer.
Yeah, nearly knocking over a staffer.
d'Entremont had to go and tell CBC, no, it wasn't quite that bad. And they had to issue a correction, but it had already been out there for like 12 hours and on every radio and TV broadcast.
Well, and at this time, people were talking about how, like, allegedly, Conservative MPs, this I think is why Matt Genereux released that statement, a follow-up statement after his retirement and his resignation announcement, saying, I was not coerced into this. There was no pressure, because, I mean, basically people were suggesting that, I mean, Brian, in plain language, people were saying that some Conservative MPs were being threatened to have dirty details of their personal indiscretions released publicly if they were considering crossing the floor. Like, it was getting nasty.
Oh, I think it's getting nasty on all sides. And I think the Liberals are doing whisper campaigns about certain MPs as part of their pressure tactics. It's insane. And let me explain what Parliament Hill can be like. All the worst parts of the high school cafeteria with the gossip and the innuendo and the cliques, but with salaries. That's what Parliament Hill can be like at times, especially at times like this. I don't know what happened with Genereux. Like, I know a little bit, like his wife had been a surgeon in Edmonton, and then in Vancouver, moved to Montreal to try and, make it easier for them to be able to see each other. That didn't work, and she went to Victoria. Is there other stuff going on for why he's leaving? I don't know. But on d'Entremont, he's playing the, I'm a poor red Tory that, couldn't fit in Pierre Poilievre's world, and I didn't get support from the party. Let me tell you the truth, and your audience will hear this first, Ryan. It'll be published in the Toronto Sun soon. Chris d'Entremont approached Andrew Scheer in the summer of 2018. He had been an MLA in Nova Scotia for years, since 2003. He'd been in the cabinet when the PCs were in power from 2003 to 2009, and he was in government. He'd even served as high as health minister. They'd been in opposition for 10 years. Tim Houston wins the leadership, and d'Entremont goes to Andrew Scheer and says, I can't work with Tim Houston. I don't like him. I'd like to run for you. Now, why is that interesting, and why does it push back against the I'm just a poor red Tory? Is that Tim Houston is a very moderate, middle of the road conservative. Andrew Scheer is not. Andrew Scheer is a fiscal hawk and he's a SOCON. And you know who else is a SOCON? Part of the Parliamentary Pro-Life Caucus? Chris d'Entremont. So, if you can't work with Tim Houston, but you're going to go run for Andrew Scheer, don't tell me it's because you're the wrong kind of conservative. I mean, that just doesn't wash at this point. And then the idea that they didn't give him support. Do you remember when Anthony Rota had to resign as speaker because he had the guy who'd fought in the Nazi regiment when Zelensky was there? So that's September 2023. Rota resigns. The Conservatives don't think that they can get one of their own, but they could, mess with the Liberals' heads. And there was a New Democrat that wanted to run, and like, well, maybe we all get behind the New Democrat and force an NDP speaker on the Liberal government. And d'Entremont went to Pierre Poilievre and said, boss, I think I can win. I think I should be speaker. I think I can win. Here's how, here's why. And Poilievre's skeptical at first, but, d'Entremont, who worked in sales before politics, convinces him. And not only does he get the blessing to go ahead and run, Poilievre puts his whole office, the OLO was fully behind him. I talked to one staffer who said, oh yeah, completely ruined my weekend. We all had to come in and make phone calls to MP after MP lobbying for d'Entremont. Now, they said yes, and then they started the operation, and then they said to Chris, well, where's your list of people you already know are supporting you? He said, I don't have one. Well, who have you been talking to? I haven't been doing anything. So he ends up losing, and Greg Fergus becomes speaker, one of the worst speakers I've ever seen, which was a huge disappointment for me because I like Greg pre-politics, and he was a horrible speaker. But d'Entremont had the full support of the leader's office, and he failed. He crapped the bed. I don't know if we can say it the other way on your show.
You can say whatever you want, buddy.
So when the election comes and he wants to be speaker again so he can pad his pension and go live at the farm, you get a beautiful home when you're speaker in the Gatineau Hills called the Farm. Used to belong to William Lyon Mackenzie King. He wants all of this. And he's told people, yeah, I want to do one more term, serve as speaker, get a bigger pension. He's saying this openly before the election. Well, the election comes and it's time to elect a new speaker, and the Conservatives are like, no, we're not backing you. One, they don't want to lose the vote, because if you're speaker, you don't vote, and you are always in the chair for the big votes, like confidence votes. So they don't want to lose that. And the last time, they put all their effort behind him, and he was a horrible candidate. So they walked away from him. He is incredibly butthurt over all of this. And then he lobbied for, there's a deputy assistant speaker role that the party can put someone forward to. He lobbied for that, and they just said, no, we're backing Tom Kimmick.
So do you think it sounds kind of petty, to be honest. You don't think there's any more to it? You think that it's going to be one and done? You think that the Liberals are still going to be too shy and they're going to have to convince where does it go from here?
Look, I think a lot of things can be true at once for why d'Entremont did this. I think he was hurt. I think that soured the relationship. I think the Liberals were whispering sweet nothings in his ears. And he was like, yeah, okay, let's go. Will it help him, win again in Nova Scotia? Maybe. That area has been swinging.
Well, but he also might just feel like, this is, if he can work toward getting him a majority and that buys him 3 more years and then he's out anyway, right? Like,
he got his pension in October, like all the other class of 2019. So, and by the way, it's not a huge pension when you've just been in 6 years. It's about $30,000 to $40,000 a year. Okay. Nothing to sneeze at, and more than a lot of other Canadians are going to get. But
it's not $250,000 or something.
Yeah, I don't want people thinking, well, you're Scrooge McDuck suddenly with your MP pension.
Right. Let me ask. Hey, speaking of money, what do you think? I know you got a TV hit you got to do in like 10 minutes, and I got to ask you about the budget. Everybody sort of approaches it differently. Everybody's keeping different eyes on it. Laurie Hahn, former Conservative MP, talking to us yesterday about defense spending. What's one storyline that you think more Canadians should be following? With now that we've had days to look through Mark Carney's first budget?
Well, you've got 3 people that couldn't agree on the time, all saying the same thing. And that's me, Andrew Coyne, and Susan Delacourt. 3 different papers, 3 different columnists, 3 different personalities. We all looked at it and said, this does not come close to living up to what Mark Carney promised. And my biggest problem with the Carney government is you keep saying big things and then you do small things. He said, we need to think big, act bigger, move at speeds not seen in generations. He's not doing that. This budget was supposed to be about austerity. Program spending is up 7.2%. He said Justin Trudeau's 8% annual spending increases were unsustainable. Well, what's 7.2? That's unsustainable as well. The deficit number is double what had been projected at in the previous budget, and almost double what had been projected last December. That's not all due to Trump. A small part of that is due to Trump and the tariffs. That's due to out of control government spending, the fact that we spend $55 billion a year, more than we spend on healthcare to service the debt. This was not an austerity budget, and there's nothing in there that actually does any generational transformation. And their claim that, yeah, but we'll cut spending back next year. I don't believe any government with their medium and long-term projections, because they never meet them. And as Fitch rating agency pointed out when they issued a warning about Canada's debt, they said that this government has a habit of not meeting those targets and in fact spending more. So it was a horrible budget on all fronts, especially in the fact that it didn't live up to what was promised.
Brian Lilley is a national columnist for Toronto's, TorontoSun.com is where you can find his work. But I'll also let people know they can check out BrianLilley.com as well and follow you, Brian, on X, along with about 250,000 other people. Always good to have you on the show, man. We appreciate you doing it, and we'll talk to you again sometime soon.
Thank you. Chat soon.
Yeah, you bet. Real Talkers, you can let us know what you think about what you just heard to talk at ryanjesperson.com. I know some of you are going to believe that Brian's bang on, and some of you are going to believe that he's way off, and that's why we bring different voices on the show to challenge our preconceived notions, to see things through other lenses. Always appreciate the feedback that you leave as well. Comments on our YouTube episode, and we are starting to pull more and more YouTube comments for our flamethrower. If you're new to the show, a new member of our audience, welcome, first of all, to our new subscribers. Every Friday, or at least the last episode of every week, our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park present the flamethrower, which are the hottest takes and, let's be honest, the angriest, but most comedically driven. Not just pure fury all the time. Some excellent creative writing on behalf of Real Talkers and emails to talk@ryanjesperson.com, or, of course, those YouTube comments. I want to get to what you have to say on this, plus I have to get to Real Talker Carmen's email. It relates to what we talked about on the 11th of November, lest we forget, and we're going to make sure that we do that before this episode wraps. It is Wednesday, which means that our friends at Tourism Jasper have set the scene for us. They've set the table, let's say. A reminder of what's waiting for us out in Jasper National Park, Canada's crown jewel of the Rockies. It's MyJasper Memories, proudly presented by our friends at Tourism Jasper. And I know that some of you are getting very eager to get out to the mountains. The temperature is dropping. You can't wait for Marmot Basin to open and everything that comes along with that. But right now, we want to focus on shopping in Jasper for that perfect holiday gift. I know that Real Talkers Matt, Amy, and Max are out in Jasper right now. They let us know. They're going to be sending us some photos from their journey. They checked in with the show. They went to jasper.travel to plan out their early holiday getaway to Jasper. Now, with November here, the month of, Black Fridays and Moonlight Madnesses, and of course all this mad scrambling for, I don't know, gift ideas for your father or mother-in-law, why not make your shopping trip an actual trip and polish off your gift list in Jasper? They have so much going on. You can check out at jasper.travel, and we'll put it into the show notes as well on the podcast and on YouTube. They've even got gift wrapping stations, so all their retailers are ready to welcome you in. But gift wrapping stations around town, so you can shop local, find those beautiful, unique gifts, support those local retailers, and then have it look just super professional. They're all stocked, as you would expect, with festive wrap and bows and bags and so much more. Put the finishing touches on the purchases that you're making at Jasper's Source for Sports. I love that shop. At Totem Ski Shop as well. Such a killer shop. I just absolutely love Totem. By the way, you can find them on Instagram at Totem Ski Shop too. Ransom is a great shop if you're looking for gear to hit the mountains or just to feel comfortable through those beautiful winter months and more. This is all part of the new Christmas in Jasper programming, and you can learn more again, jasper.travel. Christmas in Jasper running from November 14th, so basically this weekend, all the way through till Christmas Eve on December 24th. Now you go, okay, well, what can I get in Jasper? What sort of shops are we looking at here? Johnny's showing some of you, for those of you watching on YouTube or on social media, just some of the retailers there. And there's nothing like window shopping
That's
and
Ransom
walking
there.
in. That's Ransom right there. Such a good shop. They've bailed me out many times. I'm a bit of a forgetful packer. I'm a last-minute packer, John. And so sometimes I got to go in and get something like right now.
If you're a last-minute packer or shopper, that's why Jasper's having Moonlight Madness. I'm a guy who likes
So good.
I'm a guy who likes to get up at 8 p.m. and go shopping, not
It's
have
the
to.
DJ lifestyle.
Yeah, so I'm down for Moonlight Madness.
I love that. That's Live, Love, and Shop Local. That's coming up on the 21st of November, so next weekend. And I know that Jasper's Commerce, the Chamber of Commerce there, is proud to support that with Tourism Jasper doing an amazing job. Totem, did you know Totem Ski Shop? So I was talking about their Instagram. They've been around. I had no idea until a short time ago. They've been around for over 100 years.
There you go.
How wild is that? So they've partnered with Armada. These are really, really neat to create 100 special edition skis. And you can see it on their Instagram. Just give them a follow at Totem Ski Shop. These are special edition skis with artwork inspired by the Jasper fire. And the photography, by the way, is absolutely incredible. These designs are amazing. I'm sort of more in the market for a new snowboard, but I think I might have to buy a pair of these skis at Totem Ski Shop. Dee McLean is the mother of a young Jasper local, and the art is created by Dee with themes of beauty after burn and quiet rebirth. If you can't get the skis, or maybe if you're like me and you're more looking for a snowboard, you can also just purchase a print of the skis, a print of the painting in store at Totem. So cool. And then Ransom, I mean, that shop that's carrying kind of the, what do you call it, like mountain-inspired clothing, I would say, like fashion-forward mountain-inspired clothing at Ransom. They've got shoes, sunnies, but what really sets Ransom apart, and Johnny, you were showing us their photos earlier, is that they're collaborating with a lot of local artists. And so they've got, like, for example, this mushroom tea, which is really cool, with sketches that are made by a Jasper resident. And they discovered these in an old field notebook, which is cool. And then they turned it in. They basically turned it into a T-shirt. I want to show this to you because it's super cool. So, I mean, just like really unique stuff, right? Like these are I don't know, different gift ideas. People are going to be looking for sort of expressions of thoughtfulness around the holidays. How do you prove, don't run out and grab a gift card for someone. I mean, unless maybe it's a gift card for a local restaurant. But you know what I'm saying? A unique gift, like you'll find at Ransom and Totem, really goes a long way. Plus, Everest Outdoors, which is another favorite shop in Jasper. If you're looking for stuff for your doggo, all those dog lovers out there, if you love, of course, not just your pooch, somebody who loves their pooch, maybe a really thoughtful Christmas gift idea. Everest Outdoors has all kinds of gear and goodies from rough wear. So you're pretty much covered. What this is saying to me is that it's a perfect time. Don't spend time packing at home. Just get in your vehicle, get out to Jasper, and pick up what you need while you're out there.
I think the best part of it is all that stress that comes along with shopping, trying to find the right gift, like you're saying, and then you get to the end and don't let Ryan say that, okay? A few people are going to get gift cards, and it's not because
there's nothing wrong with gift cards.
It's not because you're less than. It's because we had just such a hard time choosing the perfect, sentimental, thoughtful gift that in the end we thought, rather than get a gift that doesn't deserve every inch of your thoughtfulness and our
Listen
thoughtfulness,
to this guy go.
a gift card would just be the easier way out. It would be the way for me not to give you a gift that you didn't fully deserve. But after you're done all that stress, you see?
Don't they say?
You should see me write a Christmas card. I'm great. Anyways, but when you're done all that stressful shopping, the best part is that you get to go hit the slopes for a run or two.
100%.
That you get to go to the local establishments and have a nice beer or a nice hot coffee or hot chocolate. That you get to go back to the fireside and sit around.
I can't wait to
and
get
then
back
back
out
to
there.
the cabin, and all that shopping stress just melts away.
Right? You said it better than anything I've ever put together.
Put it on the card.
You just nailed it. Put it on the card. Johnny needs the foolscap cards. Your cards are like 11 by 17.
Yeah.
Your hand cramps halfway through writing it. You got to like start again. And for those of you that are wondering about opening day at Marmot, we will keep you posted. You can check out skimarmot.com. I know that they're getting really excited to welcome everybody out there. I can't wait to go rip some turns out there. Opening day has been postponed, so stay tuned for details. We'll keep you posted as well. Of course, right here on MyJasper Memories, proudly presented by our amazing friends at Tourism Jasper. You and I made a promise to each other. We should tell the audience so they can hold us accountable. Growing up, I learned a lot about
that we'd never go home
accountability
angry.
Partners will never go home angry, and that we're going to ride the mountains together this year. We are. You and I we've been friends for like more than 10 years, and we've never ridden the mountains together.
So I was an avid snowboarder. I mean, since I've been like probably 16 years old, and around my 20s, my early 20s. I got a chance to just tour around. I went to Whistler, Red Mountain. I lived in Fernie for a year, and that's where I met like some of the Burton boys.
Fernie's so cool.
Tried to be a pro, but was more like a semi-amateur. You know, good enough to hang, not good enough to do backflip through, you know, and stuff like that. But got to go in the backcountry and you know, build steps for the real pros and hang out. But it's something I kind of got away from, especially since I moved back here from BC. The last 3-4 years I've been with you. It's something I miss. I mean, I go every now and then, but this winter I'm diving all back in. You saw, I bought new board. I bought everything head to toe. New jacket, new boot, new boards, no binding, mask, goggles, like jacket, pants, gloves. I'm all in.
You literally bought everything brand new.
Every single thing. Well, I needed to re-up.
No, I know. I'm just like the only time I've ever been able to do that, I was telling you, is like 5-6 years ago, and my vehicle was ransacked and I lost everything. It was stolen. They stole everything, real talkers. Like I'm talking like from my snowboard bag to like my suitcase, my bag that I had with me, my duffel bag, like everything was jacked, including all my gear. And while it does suck, that definitely sucks, and you lose the odd thing that's irreplaceable. When you get to reset and walk into a shop and you're like, buddy, like you are the salesperson's favorite customer that day.
But for me, like snowboard equipment's like hockey equipment. Like I hadn't changed my equipment in like a decade before that. I love when it gets worked in. I love when the boots are soft and your pants feel perfect, unless they get ripped or trashed and wind or cold starts coming in. Like I'm wearing my gear until it falls to pieces, and I love when it gets worked in. But I also love when you get a fresh set of everything on the mountain. It is it's almost embarrassing the first
because you know
month
what I mean?
or two, because everyone looks at you like,
brand
dude, you
new.
have all brand. Like, who are
Well, you don't want to be
did
the
you
guy.
Fly in?
Make sure you rip the tags off before you go into the lodge.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They look at you like, who's this poser who just like got all new gear? He's out here for like 1 week. But I'm not. I live here.
I love this.
Here.
Explorer Hollis in the chat says that they're going to be in Jasper Thursday to Saturday. Says it can't come soon enough. Says I love that town with my whole heart. I know that this is just turning into a love letter to Jasper for like 15 minutes, which quite frankly is fine with me. But it's like something happens to me when I'm driving out there. You know, you get like to Edson. I look at it as like the halfway from Edmonton. Shout out to our Calgary crews that come up there. I know you guys get to see the 93 and have a whole different experience driving to Jasper. But then you get to Hinton. I always pop into the Friesen Brothers there and you get excited. Then you're like 40 minutes, right? And pulling into town. And it just, I don't know, it means even more now. For obvious reasons, with everybody just, I don't know, it's just something special in the midst of great challenges that still do exist as that town is rebuilding. And we encourage you to keep Jasper in your consideration, like Explorer Hollis is doing, and Matt, Amy, and Max, who wrote into the show, let us know they're actually out there right now. You know, if you got some you know, disposable income where the families, you're deciding where you're going to spend your Christmas, you're deciding where you're going to shop, you know, consider Jasper.
Yeah, consider Jasper. Marmot is an amazing mountain. We were just talking about like the trays, what's the trays? The
Ombres.
So I haven't read trays Ombres because that opened after, I think it opened 2017 or 18.
It's no joke, man.
Yeah, and I had been before that to Jasper. I haven't been riding in Jasper in a long time. So to go up and to get on that new extension that I know it's not new, but I haven't been to it yet, which is I think there's like 45-degree angle steeps in there.
Yeah, it's
that's the stuff I want to get into. I want to get back into it. And man, I know people say like skiing, snowboarding, it's such an elitist, it's so expensive. Dude, it is one of the best workouts for your body. You can go to like
Here, I'm showing you Tres Hombres on the screen right now if you want to put it up while we're talking.
Incredible.
So this will give you an
some
idea
of these trails, like the muscles it's a full body workout, but like you can go to like 50 spin classes and it's not going to give you as much cardio and all over muscle like workout as one day of going up on the mountain for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. So,
well, yeah, and you also can't stop halfway through a yoga workout at the Mid-Mountain Lodge and crush 3 pints.
Okay, come on, Ryan. I'm trying to display the health benefits here.
Well, I mean, you can make the argument that the mental health benefits of stopping at the Mid-Mountain Lodge for some nachos and a cold one is very considerable, right?
Yeah, but if you snowboard regularly all winter long, like you probably don't have to go to the gym at all year because
it's a quad.
It's all over.
It's a quad blaster.
I love it.
It's how you always know it's like the first ride of the season. And any real talker that's you play hockey for the first time in a long time, or you swim for the first time in a long time, or whatever it is. I bet you like Pilates is probably like this, first time in a long time.
Okay,
it's like
so
you feel it. You remember muscles that you didn't know you had.
Well, one of our friends, my partner, her friend just started like teaching Pilates, and I was like, Pilates sounds like Zumba or something. Like, I always thought of it like that, dude. I was looking at it, and my partner came home just thrashed from it. It is one of that is I'm not going to slag on Pilates ever again. One of the hardest workouts I've ever seen, and the machines they use, and just how long it is. I was like, I don't even know if I could do that.
Coradetti Motorsports says, "You guys want to work out? Let's hit the trails on a dirt bike." Man, I have friends down in Calgary, Steve and Rena, and they are. The Kazmeyers, if anybody knows them down in Calgary, they know because they're like dirt bike maniacs, and the athleticism in dirt biking, they are on another level. Like motocross to me is some of the wildest stuff that is like accomplished by humans on planet Earth. I'm serious, man.
The tricks nowadays are crazy. I remember watching the X Games when the first, I think it was, I'll look him up. I forget who it was because I don't want to say the wrong name. The first rider did a backflip, and everyone was like insane.
That was major.
We're so far from that now. It's
absolutely
insane, the trickery.
Metamodern Sounds in the chat, powered by Park Power, says, come on, Johnny, beer is healthy. It's a recovery drink, which is true. Let me just say there's small print all over this. It's not actually a recovery drink. Please talk to your doctor before you use beer as a recovery drink.
Carrie Hart. Why didn't I know that?
I wrote this down, Metamodern. I wrote this down from you earlier in the chat. It was in the middle of my talk with Lily, and it wouldn't have made sense to jump in when I saw your comment after, but had asked Metamodern Sounds wanted me to ask Brian Lilley what he thought of UCP-branded wreaths or a UCP-branded wreath. What? At the, I'm assuming you're talking about the national ceremony of remembrance at the National War Memorial, right, in Ottawa yesterday. I don't, and it's very possible I missed it. We were watching it. I was watching it, and I did see a wreath laid that said Government of Alberta. I don't think there's anything controversial about that. There's one that says Government of Canada. There's one that says all the different stuff. Was there one that said United Conservative Party? I highly doubt it, but maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. We're doing this in real time.
Can we keep?
We're branding.
I don't want liberal because I don't want any branding on wreaths.
Well, if it's allowed, well, we're in then. I want to do a Real Talk Ryan Jesperson wreath. I'm trying to be cute or funny. It's a very somber ceremony, but if it's just an opportunity for people to indicate that they are representing their organization and observing Remembrance Day, that's great. But all I saw, and I might be wrong on this, hang on. No, someone's saying, it was in St. Albert. In St. Albert. So what did it, like multiple Nick and 80s Fanify and Tracy and Metamodern are saying this happened in St. Albert. How did I miss this story? So what does it say? It's a wreath that says United Conservative Party on it. Okay. Interesting. United Conservative Party branding on the wreath. All right. Okay. I didn't see it. I got to think about that. I got to see because my context was at the National War Memorial. I don't know about the St. Albert. Were there other political parties? Yeah, it seems weird. Seems weird for a political.
Do we gotta brand everything? Like, can't we just leave a few things in the? Are we gonna brand the Yule log? Are we gonna brand the?
But was the opportunity open? Guys, I apologize. I'm flying blind on this one. I'm flying in the clouds. So I've not seen the story. I'm learning of it from you. I love Real Talkers. I love when you do this. Get us up to speed. Make sure we know everything that's happening. But I don't have the context. I don't know if like did Boston Pizza sponsor a wreath or did the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park sponsor? Like, I don't know.
Just so you know, at our Christmas party here at the historic Mercer Warehouse in downtown Edmonton. We are having a Real Talk branded Santa come in the teal and blue and the logo on his back. So
okay, well, here's the photo. So this is shared on.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, it's shared on Reddit.
Oh, it's not. It's kind of just laid
it is
on there. I see.
It's kind of tacky, to be honest.
I thought we were going to see like a whole
let's
blue and white.
Well, I want to
wreath
see. I want to see
like,
here. So Veterans House Canada, lest we forget. Army Cadets, lest we forget. Here's one in the back. Is this the McBride family? Okay, so it looks like a lot of the ribbons or some of the ribbons are kind of customized based, I'm assuming, on donations. Maybe that goes to the Legion.
I see. So I didn't understand this. I thought it was a Christmas one, first of all. This is a
remembrance wreath.
But also, it looks like it was given by them. It doesn't look like it's branded,
but it doesn't.
For them, you know?
It doesn't really it doesn't jive with all the other wreaths, which have the purple ribbons. What's this one here? Let's zoom in here. Pioneer Chapter 1. Yeah. Okay. So there's some customized. Yeah. I don't know.
It looks like who it's given by, right?
Here's my take on this first glance. You guys have heard me suss it out mentally over the past minute and a half. My take on it at the end of the day. I don't know that I'm offended, but it comes across as tacky. How's that? That's my take on it right now.
It's quite large. It doesn't look like a card on it or something.
Yeah, it doesn't. If I zoom back out, and again, this photo was on Reddit. Thanks to everybody that pointed this out to us. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just I don't know. I think we'd like to see politics. There should be like a no-fly zone. No war, pun intended, but like maybe sort of have 50 meters around cenotaphs where there's no election signs or politics or
sure,
you know what I'm saying?
It's tacky in the sense that, but I see now that it's more. I thought it was a branded wreath, like worked into the wreath. It just looks like it was given by a member of the United Conservatives or a representative. But I do agree, the sign is larger than the entire wreath. It is tacky. And you can see other cards on the other wreaths to show who they were given by. But it's very large.
Yeah, it is large. I mean, Kenzie says it doesn't look good, but at least they made a donation. Others are saying, Lightning Rod says it seems like the branding is more important than the wreath.
100%.
My man, Jorgen Jesperson in the chat. What's up, brother? Says, agreed, it's tacky. And M. Aitken says, stop making excuses, you guys. I would just say this, like Jorgen says, it doesn't fit the theme. It sticks out like a sore thumb compared to the rest. I would agree. Metamodern says it's tacky as shit and disgraceful. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I wouldn't have done it. Put it that way. I wouldn't have done it. We did have a wonderful conversation on the 11th of November. Laurie Hahn, retired member of Parliament, former fighter pilot, and Don Levers, a passionate World War II historian and author, and Randall Purvis, the co-founder, he'll say. He just loves his wife, Maureen, so very much, and he's always like, I'm the co-founder of No Stone Left Alone, the three of them joining us. And Laurie, of course, in a unique position, right? He's been served in the military, CF-18 Squadron Commander. For 30 years, he served his country, and then another 10 years in Ottawa as a politician. We asked him about, for his assessment of the state of the military, and that includes the next generation of men and women signing up or not, in this case, to serve their country. And Laurie gave us a pretty solid assessment, including defense spending in the Mark Carney budget and dealing with Donald Trump. It prompted an email from Carmen, and I want to get to that in just a bit. But first, in case you missed it, this is Laurie Hahn from our November 11th episode.
It's been neglected for a long, long time by governments of both stripes. And the budget came out, and it said some good things, makes some good promises. We need to see the deliverables now. So it's easy to say, but it's tough to do. And we're climbing a pretty steep cliff from where we have fallen. So it's going to take a while to get back, and it's going to take continuous attention by the government, by the military, by Canadians to make sure we can get back to some semblance of where we used to be. We're desperately short of people in all three services, and the reserves need to be seven or eight times bigger than they are now. But it's going to take a long time to get there. But promises are cheap. Let's see what the government actually does. Until the public cares, government won't care. And I think one of the things that Donald Trump has done, amongst the many questionable things, is he's awakened in people, look, we got to pay attention to this, because the world as we knew it before isn't the world it is today. So we've got to start taking more on ourselves, not relying on the U.S., because we relied on the U.S. for defense and security hugely in the past. And we just can't do that anymore. And Trump has made that clear.
Is NATO more important now than ever?
Absolutely, because NATO is now, 32 countries, but 31 are clearly on the same side. One is there, but there's some strings attached with that, and we've got to recognize that, and we've got to pull our own strings. We'll be more tied to Europe, which we should be, but we've got to look more to Europe, and Europe has to look to us, I think, because Europe is concerned about America. They're concerned about Donald Trump. And of course, we're right next door. So we're going to be looked at as somebody that needs to step up more to compensate somewhat. We can never compensate for everything America does. That's just not possible. But we need to be stepping forward to do as much as we can to counterbalance the questionable things that people are sensing from the United States.
That was Lori Hahn in our most recent episode of the show, November 11th. I encourage you to check it out. Great insights. I see Vamp Fashions in here says, gosh, I really like Lori Hahn. I do too. I have a hilarious Lori Hahn story, by the way. That guy gave me so much grace. I've told it on the show before. Maybe I'll tell it again. It involves the sheepdogs, John. But Lori's impassioned plea for better investment in the Canadian forces and his pitch, we'll call it, respectfully, to young men and women considering a career in the Canadian Forces resonated with Carmen, who took the time to write into the show to talk at ryanjesperson.com. Says, Jespo, your discussion with the panel the morning of Remembrance Day, important and wonderfully done. Thank you. Sharing the stories is crucial, says Carmen. Says there's so many stories over a long period of time, including generations before ours. Sadly, however, these stories are still being written about our own generation. Carmen says, my passion in my last years of service, continuing after my retirement from uniform, thank you, Carmen, for your service, has been to ensure that more recent sacrifices are not lost in the remembrance of previous generations and larger wars. And more to the point, that Canada does a better job of serving the living veterans among us. Carmen says from co-pilot, he says, I asked a question. Here's an answer to a question. He says, I asked to test my memory. Between 2001 and 2014, approximately 40,000 Canadian Armed Forces personnel served in Afghanistan. 159 fatalities, more than 2,000 wounded. Combat operations lasted nearly a decade, with many members serving multiple tours. And he goes on to share, just the staggering numbers there. The average tour length for someone that was deployed, 6 to 9 months per deployment. An estimated 70,000 tours, which meant that many personnel served up to 3 of them. Again, 159 Canadian Air Force members gave their lives. 7 Canadian civilians, diplomats, aid workers, journalists died. He said, women were serving in combat, medical and intelligence and support roles. He says people need to remember that Canada's primary combat role there was in Kandahar province, one of the most volatile regions. And the mission evolved from combat operations to training Afghan forces under Operation Attention. The human cost for that war, says Carmen, was the highest for any Canadian military mission since Korea. And the key thing, he says, is that it's important to honor those who made the ultimate sacrifice through organizations like what Randall Purvis is doing with No Stone Left Alone. But, says Carmen, for me, it's perhaps even more important that we don't allow either the 2,000 wounded or the many thousand more who have disappeared into society. What a powerful way to put it, Carmen. Disappeared into society, but are suffering from PTSD and other infirmities that are resulting in large numbers of veterans being houseless, suffering from addictions, or otherwise crippled. He says, fortunately, there are other groups that are working hard every day to help. One great example that's helping veterans, for example, right here in Edmonton, he says, is the Homes for Heroes Foundation. Johnny, I'm showing it right now. You can check out homesforheroes.ca if you want to learn more about it. Carmen says they've developed this tiny home village. Check this out, the website, homeforheroesfoundation.ca. Johnny, just pop it up on the screen for me. Who developed the tiny home village in Northeast Edmonton so successfully. Again, that's homeforheroesfoundation.ca. That from Carmen, who took the time to write in, sharing about his own military service and his perspective through Remembrance Day, including his thoughts following our Remembrance Day Real Talk Roundtable. That really means so much to us, Carmen, and we know a lot of people. November 11th is the day where we pause, where we sit and reflect, where we show gratitude, and in many cases mourn. And the other 364 days of the year, let us snap to action. Let us hold government accountable. Let us insist that our veterans are properly supported, that our active duty members are properly funded and supported. I so appreciate Carmen's take on this, and if you have a response to it, we encourage you to send us a note as well to talk@ryanjesperson.com. Chris and Franco, I'll tell you, your emails are in the hopper. We will be reading your emails coming up on home ownership and immigration numbers. The show's running a bit long because that's what happens. Sometimes we get into these conversations, the Trump Epstein stuff drops, and then, of course, we have to romance and show our love for Jasper. So we'll get to more on that later this week. Before we wrap, I do want to remind you, you see these glasses of the Sask here on the Real Talk table and in the studio. Guests in our historic Mercer Warehouse studio are offered glasses of the Sask. That's straight out of the tap, friends. EPCOR's Glass of the Sask campaign is celebrating. You can learn more at epcor.com. Celebrating Edmonton's award-winning water that comes from the North Saskatchewan River. Of course, an essential resource that shapes and sustains our city. With help from this campaign, Edmontonians are building the habit of bringing reusable water bottles to your favorite events and festivals, contributing, by the way, to a running tally. I love this. They ran this campaign through the summer. You can read about the results on their website. 500,000 liters of water were served since that campaign started. That's the equivalent of 1 million single-use plastic bottles. So amazing job to everybody through festival season who made that more sustainable. You can show your pride for Edmonton and for this region's tap water by enjoying a glass of the Sask on tap, made local, this award-winning tap water by EPCOR. And for those of you that are going to be swinging on by playalberta.ca or using your Play Alberta app, of course, that there's been casino winners every single hour. Albertans are winning. Alberta wins with Play Alberta. Jackpots worth $1 million and revenue that stays in the province. That's a huge deal, everybody. But there's never been a better time to sign up. Right now, Real Talkers can score a $50 casino bonus when you make a minimum $50 deposit with the code RYAN50, RYAN50 at playalberta.ca or on the Play Alberta app. Start playing with your game sense today to find out if you're Alberta's next winner. You must be 18 or over to play. And don't forget, Thursdays, that'll be our next episode. Thursdays on Real Talk, we share stories of Albertans winning, of the province winning on the national and international stage. Alberta Wins presented Thursdays on Real Talk by our friends at Play Alberta. As we wrap this episode, wanted to let you know what we have coming up on the show over the next couple of days. The leader of Alberta's official opposition, Naheed Nenshi, will join me one-on-one our next episode of the show. That'll be the 13th of November. We're also going to dig into more talk on classroom complexities. We've not forgotten about this story just because the teachers or students are back in class. We hope you'll join us then. Thanks for telling your friends about this one. We'll see you soon.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jesperson, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lawrence Derlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton, member emerita Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjesperson.com.